How you doing? Instagram is Victor. Uh, Today I want to talk about the importance of understanding what spirituality is, my experiences with certain students that I've had, what I do, um, my experience with certain relationships that I've had in the past and in the present. So every human being lives their life pretty much trying to figure it out as they go. That's pretty much the brunt of the work. A lot of this work that we do in this planet to become human beings is skewed by misinformation. And this misinformation is given to you as a form to throw you off, in a sense. But we grow up with parents that don't really understand the type of child that they just gave birth to because they themselves don't know what type of parents gave birth to them. So it's a cycle, and this cycle creates a lot of pain. So what I do is I guide people and I teach them how to go into this cycle and dive into it, almost like you're opening up a dimension. And in that dimension, you're going to see things that don't seem spiritual, things that seem obscure, um, things that may be unattainable to the human mind. Um, and it's very sporadic. Since I'm a medium, like right now, I'm channeling this for you. I was told to start doing videos and doing lectures as I do on my day-to-day basis. I try to remain incognito because of the type of work that I do is very personal. It's very intimate. And people go through things that I can't even explain half the time. Just today, this girl I was with, she's been going through a lot of different experiences with me just in a year. So much pain and suffering. And the mother was pretty much manipulating her whole life, how she should live, created a platform for her to live on. And the girl was traumatized, lived an entire life of misery and unconsciousness, a life of feeling unworthy. So the whole cycle began with me, and then I had to teach her how to go into these things. And most of these things, she started off taking my Kundalini yoga classes, and then I did some Reiki on her and everything. But everything that I do is always going to regress you because that's the energy that I carry. When you channel information from source, God, or whatever you want to call it, you have a very tough job. And it's your life. It's not that you become a life of misery, but you become a life of service. And when you do service for other people, you go through a lot of pain. But this is the sacrifice that I have to do in this life. So this individual went through a lot of different situations. The mother started attacking her. She started changing. The mother always wants to keep the grasp on the vision of herself that she never had, which is created by the daughter. The Freudian thing talks about it as the Oedipus complex, and it's known as that, but it's a very ancient situation. So the mother competes with the child and gives the child a sense of being, but it's not really the sense of being that the child needs. the child ends up lost, confused, traumatized. A platform that they have to follow all the time, something that needs to be followed, but they never understand why. And they grow up, they read books, they do all these things, and they're still lost. And in this age, we're trying to find all these things now through, spirituality and, esoteric arts and things of that nature. The problem with that is that if there's no regression, emotional regression, hypnotic regression of any of these problems or traumas inside of the body, then you can meditate and chant and have spiritual friends and wear spiritual clothing and all the beads that make you look spiritual. But you'll never understand what it means to be yourself. You'll be living another facade. The facade that was created by the mother and the father that traumatized you. The reality of the confusion of yourself. And then the mask and another facade of spirituality. Now, I'm not saying this to bash it and say, you shouldn't live your life like that, or you should stop doing what you're doing, but there's something else that has to happen. Me, myself, I've worked with the greatest teachers, and I'm very blessed to have met these people. They never charged me a dime. And the reason they didn't charge me a dime is because they saw that I will eventually be like them in the state of awareness and mastery. And they were told by the Creator not to. Because I have a lot of work to do with people. So back to the trauma situation. So this trauma thing is pretty much 90% of spirituality. We create our relationships around this traumatic situation. We create our love life, our relationships in our jobs, our relationships in our school, the way we interact with people. Everything is based on your mother and your father. Based on how they conditioned you into the ways of being and gave you these traumas. Now, an interesting factor of this is that the traumas are given to you at such a way that it's almost like impossible for you to fight back. You kind of just like sitting there with your arms up. Please don't do this. But it still happens. So it starts in a psychic situation. When you're in the womb, the child is a being of immense energy. Immense. And the mother, being the intuitive concept being, also has immense energy. Not saying the man doesn't. He has to develop a lot of that. But so the mother's in discontents and traumas of herself unresolved are energetically, psychically picked up inside of the womb. And the traumas are then given to the child. That's step one. So as the child is trying to learn life, because that's what we're here to gain awareness and build and understand what life is and gain knowledge, if you want to call it that. It's more of a experience than a knowledge. We take on the traumas that the parents gave us. Psychically. It's not really something that they give you on a plate. It's not like they sit there and like, here's a plate, here's my trauma, you're fucked, go home, No, it's more like they don't know what they're doing. They're still children. So as you're in the womb, you're psychically taking on all these traumas, all these emotions, all these ideas, all these unresolved things, and some beautiful things too. But you take on things that aren't yours. So as you take them on, they become your life. By the time you come out of the womb, you're already something that you're not. Right? You don't even know that. That's how you get people that are, say, oh my God, she acts just like his mother, or he acts just like his father, or this and this and that. Wow, he passed that on. Genetic information is not passed down by your emotions. It's learned behavior. Racism is learned. Being a certain race is learned. A habit is learned. All these things are learned. Even if you have trauma trauma passed down, let's say from slavery, for example, right? That trauma is passed down energetically from generation to generation energetically. It's not something that's inscripted in your DNA because your consciousness is not a race. You become a race when you grow inside of a certain race, So in this situation, when you come out of the womb, after the coming out of the womb, now you're in the high fi situation, right? It's a high frequency, high fidelity, right? And you don't know what the hell you're looking at. You're crying for dear life and everything, and that in itself is a trauma. The way we attain traumas is very simple. Anything can traumatize you. You could be walking down the street, or a dog passes by you, barks at you, and you're startled. That's a form of trauma, inscripted in your DNA, inscripted in your subconscious. It becomes part of your life. So the more that we live and more experiences that we gain, these things become part of our life. But there's a reason for that. It's not coincidence. It has to happen. So back to the mother. Inside of the womb, you come out, you have this high fidelity, they cut your damn umbilical cord. That's a trauma because they're not letting the blood go through it. So then you go home, and now you're a sponge. Now you're sitting there, everybody's like, oh, cute, this and that, and they treat you like you're a damn, space cadet. In that moment that you're on the table and they're treating you like this, they're automatically getting more trauma because you're never really going to understand yourself. So time goes on, time passes, and you take on all the traumas. You keep taking it all on. You keep taking it all on. And it's just a psychic communication. Psychic communication. The child is a psychic being. It all comes in and out. So what ends up happening is, by the time you're 9 years old, 11, you don't know who you are. You're lost. So then the question starts. Who am I? Why am I here? Then you start asking your parents questions. Why am I here? What is going on here? Right? And hopefully you didn't get molested by somebody, because then that just adds on to the more trauma that you're going to attain. So this is a cycle, my point, and I could keep going on with this and tell you how your whole life ended up the way it is, and it can. But within this cycle, every human being must contend at some point. So you become older, and now your life is a mess for the most part. You do what everybody else does. You go to school, you get a degree, you get famous if you get famous. You open up shops, you do all these things that are supposed to define you. And your parents push you in order to make these things for you, to make you define you. But they're not really going to define you because you're more of an extravagant consciousness. This extravagant consciousness is kind of tucked away, but it peeks up here and there. And in there, every human being feels discontent. So from that point of discontentment, you move on in your life and you grow and do whatever you want, right? But eventually it's going to sink in. And that discontent's going to get worse. By the time you're 20 something, you're like, all right, what am I doing? 30 is moving in. You may not have gone to school. You may have a great career, But these traumas are inside of you that you don't even know about. So how do you get rid of these traumas? I just said that 90% of spirituality, hypnotic regression. And there are different forms of hypnotic regression. Psychic medium like myself, I can pick them up. We can go through a path, which is what I do. One of the things. I guide you through a path of life. And I give you specific instructions to do certain things in your life that seem completely wild, completely out of control in the spectrum of the box in which you live. From that point, then you move forward in certain things and you start to break yourself. All your comforts break, all your ideas. I teach you how not to be fake ever without projection. Very important. Because a lot of people want to be real, but they just end up being projective substances. Just project everything out, you know. And that's how they live their life, being real. But they end up just hurting people that way, in a negative way. So when you go into this whole path with me, and life becomes very, very difficult. Because now you got to look at everything that you do. Now you got to try to be aware, and I guide you through that. So in that process of becoming aware, all your comfort, everything you ever liked, everything has to be dropped. Everything you ever learned, books, everything has to be dropped with a person like me. It's almost like you're starting anew, almost like you're that baby again in the womb. So when you start anew, everything starts to change for you. You feel vulnerable, which is great. You feel powerless. But in that powerless, something happens. There's a magnetic understanding that happens. Something is given to you. So that process begins, and the trauma starts to come up. You start to see who you really are, who you're hiding behind, all the traumas your mother gave you, your father gave you, your fears. And all those fears then are rendered important because now you're going to look at them every single day, every single day. And every day we go through one, and every day we go through one, and every day you go through one. It's almost like you feel like you can't breathe. But I know that sounds like a lot and intense, but this is what spirituality is really about. It's not about all these smiley faces that people put up on things, you know? It's really not. And the more that you do that, whichever way that you know, as the process goes, it gets very obscure. But the more that you do that, your consciousness expands. It's like one goes up and the other one goes down. The trauma is going down because you're expelling it. Your consciousness boosts up, and it happens like that. It splits. And in that splitting, something happens in the middle. An understanding, an awareness, a grounding, an intelligence. And from that intelligence, that's how you become real. So, you know, it's just a process. And in that process, everything changes for you. I've divorced people. People have quit their job. I have people that did off the wall, left field things that they would never do in their life because out of the fear or unconsciousness that they didn't even know they had. Once I opened Pandora's box, everything starts to open. Your possibilities, your magnetism, your ability to perceive esoterically, your groundedness, all that starts to happen simultaneously, even though only one thing seems real at that point, which is emotional trauma and pain. But it's not like you're going through trauma and pain to get more traumatized. You're going through trauma and pain because that's what's inside and needs to come out. So as it comes out, you become powerful. And in that power, you know, it's not power as we know it, like, oh, look, I'm powerful, let me show you my arm. No, it's more like powerful, like you become secure in who you are. And now you can move forward in life and take on anything without a problem. That's how you become a magnet. When people want to do like The Secret and magnetize their life and all that stuff, before they even do all the trauma work, sure, you can tap into the magnetism of your mind if you do some, you know, manipulate it a certain way. But that trauma that's inside of your body is going to take over eventually. And you're going to keep going back into that trauma and feel that discontent. And the external world is going to become your guru. It's going to become your teacher. And you're going to always strive to get more and more and more. And you strive to get more and more now because you've been manipulating these energies and you're manipulating this magnetism and everything. But you're never going to really understand what is going on inside of you. You're never going to grow. You'll grow in a minimal level on one aspect of the consciousness. But when do you grow? You grow when you do both. There has to be a simultaneous symbiotic relationship between the magnetism of the world and the trauma work inside of you to create more magnetism of the world, to get rid of more trauma inside of you, to create more magnetism in the world. And then after a while, you don't want to magnetize anything. You become humble. Truly. It becomes a state. And when love is a state and not an emotion, you become a human. But the magnetism, in order to create that, is created by getting rid of all the traumas that you know or do not know about. Because 90% of the traumas that human beings have, they don't even know they have them. At all. They have no idea what the hell trauma is. They have no idea what's going on. They just live their life and they look good. Especially now with Skype and Instagram and all these things, right? Everybody wants to be on a facade. Everybody's on a stage, And then we amplify that and we applaud it, like yeah. Everybody, we're heading people on. We're giving them all this hope and all these things, but they never really look at, is that person really good inside, They only look good outside. And then they find a person like me, I regress them, and then there's trauma coming out of left field, there's, somebody molested somebody lied to another person, the mother controlled them over here, the father controlled them over here, they have fears, and then all these fears are coming everywhere, and they don't even know they have fears, they have more pain and everything. So what is this big booty on Instagram? I thought you looked good, What's this filter? You can't filter the truth. Only the naive can't see. So that's how it works. That's what I do. I'm a trauma regressor. I'm a very authentic teacher. I'm no joke, by no means. I kick your ass, and it's a good kick because it gives you the ability to grow, and it gives you the ability to understand what spirituality is about. And then a lot of different things happen. A lot of different magical things start to happen for real, though. Gaining things in life is not magical. Certain things, yeah. But gaining the more things that you gain, that's not the magic of life. That's the compensation for the magic of life. The magic of life is when you can be inside yourself and say, I know who I am because I've experienced the esoteric and energetic fire of life. And when you can do that, only then can you say, I am becoming a human being. You can't even say you're a human being yet. You're not even there yet. So, I know what I say is a lot. And I lecture all around, up and down New Jersey, New York, wherever I'm invited. But I'm going to start doing a lot of different things. Because I know my message isn't easy. But it's my message, it's my purpose. And when I'm ready to reveal who I am on this planet, it'll be revealed. And a lot of people will be happy in the truth of life. They're not going to be happy in their facade. We're going to get rid of all the facades. We're going to get rid of all that. Everything has to go. And I'm not perfect. I do this thing. I do that. I go through trauma still, but it's on a different level. You keep going through the stuff, You never stop going through it. But like I said before, one goes up, one goes down. The energy is going up. You regress, your energy goes up. You regress, your energy goes up. You hit different levels and you're still going through stuff, And you hit different levels and you're still going through stuff, but you become real as opposed to, faking it till you make it. That is the worst thing I've ever heard in spirituality. And a lot of these spiritual people do this stuff. Fake it till you make it. All those Kundalini people I used to be when I was a Sikh, fake it till you make it. The day I heard one of them say, fake it till you make it, I said, that person is my enemy. How dare they say that to me? Because something that Latinos and anybody from the hood knows is keep it real. But this is really keeping it real, what I'm saying. Because I'm telling you not to project to people, but still tell them the truth. I'm telling people, go into your suffering, face your suffering, and magnetize your life and make it better. You want to understand God? Look in the mirror and be honest. And when you're honest, two things happen. Your consciousness is going to constrict itself in such a way you're going to cry. You're going to get angry. You may get angry and you may cry too. But in the moment that you do both, something happens to the neurological system where the chi or the prana or whatever you want to call it, I'm not really into names and all these Sanskrit names. I don't care about that. When that starts to circulate through the nervous system, there's an igniting factor in the spine. What is that called? Kundalini. That's how you do it. And I'm not going to say that meditation isn't good. I'm not going to say that, I'm not saying that any of those things are bad. But as long as I've been teaching and the things that I know and everything, I kind of agree with the fact that there should have been still an initiation process because, we're not in that age anymore, in the Aquarian age. Now it's kind of like a buffoonery where people are just like, everybody's getting into everything and everybody's saying that they know everything, everybody's teachers and all these things, but they're not. They haven't even done 1 inch of the work. They haven't had a Kundalini awakening yet. You need a Kundalini experience. You need a few of them. You need a teacher to give you Shakti power. They open up your third eye. You need to go through the traumas. 90% of spiritual work is trauma work. It is not meditation. It is not Reiki. None of that. If the Reiki brings up your trauma and you experience your trauma and expel it out of your body, then it's good. If talking to somebody in the street and this person reminds you of your mother and makes you cry right in that moment, that is regression. They hypnotize you. That's good. They make you feel that, cry it out. It's not their problem. That's the God being there for you. But there's a misinterpretation in that because the first thing that we do is we blame it on the person and then we project and react. Right? I'm not saying let people walk over you, but you have to start to do this work to have the intelligence, the discernment, the spiritual discernment between right action and wrong action, and when to be in action, and when to retract, when to move, when not to move, when to say, when not to say, when to make a video. I've never done a video before because every time I got on camera, it didn't work. First time, and I've been teaching for like 13 years because it wasn't time. There's a time and place for everything. There's a specific way that you live under the energy. There are energetic rules, universal rules that we must follow. And those energetic rules are only attained when you do enough work of regression. You cannot sit there and own your traumas and say, I have the right to be unhappy. That's backwards thinking. I have the right to treat you however I want because I am me. That's a slave master talking. Where did you learn that behavior? Why are you not regressing it? Do you even know that it's wrong? It's a lot, what I do. I live a very obscure life. My life is when I write the book, it's unbelievable. I'm going to explain everything. A lot of teachers, they don't explain everything when they write books. They just, give you a facade, I'm going to write a book about it, and you're going to see, the things that you have to undergo, and all the things I've experienced. Esoterically, grounded, just being everything, relationships, sexual, you name it. It's been a ride, you know. But well, God said it's over. It was very nice speaking to you guys. Only a few people got on. This is the first transmission. I really deeply love everybody, and hopefully one day we can meet. If anybody wants to ever do a session with me, I could do a session. I'm very powerful. I could do a session with you over the internet. I could do a session with you anywhere. Doesn't matter. So yeah, if anybody's interested in what I just said, if anybody's interested in what I do, there's a link right under my Instagram. I'm gonna start doing a YouTube channel as well. Keep you guys posted. It's gonna be very interesting. I'm here to destroy the destroyers. That's a big job. But well, love you guys. I'm out. Peace.